As we heard in one of our leaked stories, the militants of the Union de Population du Cameroun, UPC, have since this afternoon been meeting to discuss the way forward for the party. The UPC since has been divided, and it has actually not been working well for the party, the UPC party. And since they've been meeting this afternoon, our reporter in the meeting is Tabby Clarkson. Good afternoon to you, Tabby Clarkson. And what has been going on in the Nyong and Kele division in the UPC meeting?
Good evening, BrigadeAntiSardinard, and welcome to this special meeting of the Union de Population du Cameroun, the UPC party, a party that was created on the 10th of April 1948. It was in Douala. It's true that the party has had many problems, and today we are talking dialogue and reconciliation in this party. We have the honor to have the Secretary General of the party. He was elected during the General Assembly, during the Congress, of course, in 2012. Of course, is Honorable Bapoli Port. Honorable, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, brother.
Tell us today, this meeting, we are talking dialogue, we are talking reconciliation. UPC is in problems.
Yes, of course, that in Cameroon we know very well that we are facing a lot of problems. And then we thought that we must have dialogue and in order to overcome many problems that we are facing with now. And we came in this General Assembly to make our own view for the future of this party and also to discuss with the other member of the party with whom we are in a kind of misunderstanding, and we came here to let them know that what we refuse to have as a deal with them is to not accept the fact that the strength of our party is militants, and that when we want to talk about the unity of the party, it's not the unity of elites of the party. The first thing that we have to do is to go in the countryside, try to harmonize our structure, organize our structure, and then now have people, militants, coming from those structure well existed to represent them at this level, and in that way we can have unity of the party. But if we have elites being here, talking here as leader of the party without knowing very well from where they are coming from, and knowing very well if those structures down there can recognize them as leaders of the party, we cannot have unity. That's why we told them that, as we used to say, we must reorganize the party before talking about the unity of Congress, of unity of the party.
The UPC, a historic political party, the UPC today is having no parliamentarian, the UPC is having no council. It's a big regret, a big disappointment.
No, we cannot say it, because we are represented in the Senate,
yeah.
Yeah. Through our militants, Senator Leke Besongo Akemfo Philip, who is a Brian militant who defends very well our party there. And what we have to do now is that, of course, what happened in 2020 is not good for the future of our party. And we know very well that Cameroonians are waiting a lot from our party, and we must be humble and accept that everybody must recognize that what he did was not good for the party, and now try to promote dialogue instead of saying that it is the fault of the other people. We must know that what is happening to UPC is not the question of the administration. It's just because UPC, some leaders of UPC refuse being together and harmonizing our structure and being representative of structure instead of being elites belonging to any structure. This is the reality.
We say thank you, Honorable Bapo Lepord. He is the Secretary General of the UPC party, a party where we are talking today about reconciliation, about dialogue. From this end, we have been Clarkson Tabi Eyong and of course Francis Ebenezer for Camden Television.
Thank you very much, Tabi Clarkson. The coordinator of the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Fire, Francis, has condemned recent Islamist terrorist sect Boko Haram attacks in the far north region, which led to the death of soldiers and civilians in that part of the country. In a declaration made on Monday, August 2nd, 2021, in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé, he reiterated President Paul Biya's offer for a peaceful surrender of arms. During that declaration, he also indicated that 727 ex-fighters have so far been registered in the DDR center in the far north region of the country. The following report has an in-depth of this story. The president of the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Committee, Fayongo Francis, began his declaration by recreating the numerous attacks by the Islamic terrorist sect Boko Haram in the far north region of the country. While strongly condemning the attacks, Fayongo Francis extended his sincere condolences to the families bereaved by the unfortunate and inhuman acts. He reinstated the commitment of the head of state in implementing measures to urge fighters to positively answer his call for a peaceful summit.
We have the honor to inform the public that an impressive number of fighters have surrendered to local authorities and are well taken care of in our transitional center in Meri in the far north. As of today, the center has registered the return of 727 ex-fighters.
Fayongo Francis called on those still in the bushes to massively go to the DDR centers, assuring them the National Disarmament Committee has taken the
head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, has in line with this instructed the acceleration of the construction of a multi-purpose DDR center in Meme village in the extreme north region.
He again appealed to the population to accompany and support the initiative of the head of state for the return of peace and normalcy to Cameroon. The migration of young people to live, work, study or seek greener pasture has become too rampant. In most cases, most of these youths travel illegally, thereby violating immigration laws. While less than 10% of these youths succeed in their venture, 90% ends up in a fiasco. The following report looks at the consequences of illegal immigration and what the government of Cameroon is doing to stop this growing phenomenon. Let's take a listen. The migration of young Cameroonians, both boys and girls, to work, live or seek for greener pasture out of their country is becoming a phenomenon. It is very rampant among youths nowadays, who mostly believe that it is greener out of their country of origin. Most of these youths turn to migrate illegally, which mostly have serious negative consequences.
The first consequence, and most of those youth who are going illegally are dying. They don't know where they are going, they don't know what are the conditions of the journey. They live like that without taking any precaution. They are traumatized generally when they come back, because most of them come back without crossing Mediterranean. So they come back and they are traumatized. So the family are becoming more poor because they don't have means, but they go and borrow money and give all their economy they have to send their children illegally, and finally it's students who go like that are among the most intelligent and in many domains losing its expertise, and we should struggle, all of us, to keep our children, our youth in Cameroon.
The government of Cameroon is fighting to limit the migration of the workforce.
Establish themselves as businessmen. You have fiscal advantages that they can have. Some months ago, the government launched a special recruitment of graduates from universities, even abroad. So there is also that possibility for them to come back and then have a stable employment in the public service here.
In most cases, the migrants turn to violate the immigration laws of the country they wish to settle in, thereby causing nuisance. The venue of most youths from Cameroon remain Europe, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States of America.
The differences that shapes the way mothers nurture and feed their children are highly appreciated. But sometimes breastfeeding has to do with the attitude of these mothers. In prelude to this year's World Breastfeeding Week that started on August 1st to end on August 7th, our reporter Geraldine Anase says some traditional herbs and meals helps in breast milk production. Her report.
In celebration of many ways that women and some men feed their children, there is a close look at the various cultural norms that shape breastfeeding. From traditions to law, the differences that
we sincerely apologize for that report there. Let us go back to education to see that the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, and Grand Chancellor of Academic Orders, Jacques Famindongo, has this Tuesday, August 3rd, signed an agreement with the University Institute of Cameroon. The objective is to promote and train talented students in many fields of learning and to make them meet up international standards. And Omeko has more in this report.
Steps are being taken to promote education and the training of talented students in higher education institutions in many fields to prepare them for higher challenges as facilitated by the Ministry of Higher Education.
The Ministry of Higher Education undertakes on its part to facilitate institutional support in pursuit of the objectives of this agreement, exploit and make public commercial exchange offer, participate in the selection of students who will receive scholarships from the Information and Communication Technology University according to the conditions and selection criteria defined by consensus in the scholarship offer.
It is important to note that this agreement assigned is a vast program to promote digital technology in the country.
This agreement is a vast and ambitious program which shall give decisive impetus to the development of the university digital technology and the expansion of the digital economy in our country. It falls in line with the very high vision of His Excellency Obia, President of the Republic, Head of State, to create a digital boulevard for the higher education system via the National Higher Education Network, whose implementation is personally supervised by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Mute.
The partnership agreements falls in line with His Excellency President Paul Biya's objective to promote education in the country. This will certainly be a step to prepare Cameroonian youth to be the best wherever they find themselves.
We now take you over to the southwest region of the country, precisely in the town of legendary hospitality, where the first batch of in-service trainees in the National School of Local Administration, NASLA, who have been urged to be assiduous and disciplined throughout their 6 months of diploma course. The call was made by the director of the institution, Tanyetiku Baye, during the occasion to welcome the pioneer trainees of the institution. Details in this report.
There are over 300 pioneer students who have enrolled for the massive training for 6-month diploma course in the National School of Local Administration, NASLA. The maiden batch counts it a big privilege for them.
At the end of this program, I am expecting to come out a professional in my specialty that I've opted to do, which is general administration as a senior executive. After 6 months, my community should expect to see great changes that I'm going to impact my community with the knowledge that I've acquired.
Designed for local administration of local councils, regions, establishments, trade unions, and other decentralized entities, NASLA was created in March last year by a presidential decree to respond to the needs of the decentralization nationwide, as well as the special status granted to the 2 English-speaking regions of Northwest and Southwest.
I also ask them to be disciplined and assiduous so that they should attain their objectives, and NASLA too should attain its objectives, which is to improve on their capacity, to improve in the end on their performance and the performance of their organizations.
It is a public administration and a professional establishment with a distinct legal personality and financial autonomy, with headquarters in Buea, southwest region of Cameroon.
A 9-day workshop in prelude to the World Indigenous Day has been launched in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé, by the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irene Ngene. The workshop is aimed at brainstorming on deriving strategies on how to accompany the indigenous people into the National Development Plan, due to the fact that the indigenous people feel relegated and neglected to the background. Anne Omeko tells us more in this report.
Marginalization, no access to education, just to name these few, are some of the problems which, according to the government, are faced by the indigenous population in Cameroon. Objective of a 9-day workshop in prelude to the Indigenous Day to discuss on strategies to accompany these groups of people who feel relegated to the background.
And they are marginalized because they don't have access to education, health, basic social needs. In fact, they have difficulties to have access to those basic social needs. And the first thing the government is doing with its partners is to increase the level of accessibility of those basic social needs to those populations. So more and more children coming from those groups are now scholarized. They are going to school, even at the level of the university. Secondly, you have many of them who now are civil servants in our country, and many groups or associations have been created, and they are carrying out their activities to be sure that what the order bring as developmental projects is really matching with their needs.
The Mbororo people feel like they are losing their culture as they face numerous challenges in their own country.
They live on top of the hills and so on, because most of these schools are being constructed in the nearby villages and towns. So it makes it difficult for these children to go and attend those schools. We still have problems of land issues. You know, we are Mbororo people. We have our cattle, and we need to have a very big space to stay with our cattle, because that's our culture, and that's what makes us to be Mbororo people. We still have these issues of being displaced from this our lands and territory without free and prior informed consent or even compensation. So it's a very big problem to us, because the Mbororo people today, they are losing their culture.
The dissemination of COVID-19 messages seem not to reach most of these groups of people.
Most of the information are done in English or in French, because so it doesn't get to them. And even this sensitization on distributing this preventive kits doesn't reach the indigenous community. It always stays in the other community. So it's a very big issue for us.
There is hope that after these 9 days of workshop, so many aspects neglected to include all indigenous populations will be an issue of the past, as it is His Excellency President Paul Biya's wish to be united to build a stronger nation.
Let's talk health to see that statistics has proven that cancer has been increasingly affecting young people in Cameroon. In the 2040 horizon, the rate of infection will skyrocket as 20,000 young people are affected by cancer yearly and 13,000 of them die of the disease. It is in this light that activities marking the launching of the cancer registry took place this Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 at the Ministry of Public Health in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé, as Ruth Fonyong tells us in this report.
The launching ceremony of the activities for cancer registry in Douala and Yaoundé is a means of data collection of new cases of cancer victims and an evaluation of a strategy to better prevent the disease.
The cancer register, which is a tool where all the relevant cancer data is registered in the purpose of research, in the purpose of public health analysis, in the purpose of political decision making, from what have been explained to us today, and it is therefore a very important tool in the perspective of the fight against cancer in our country.
In the conference hall of the Public Health Ministry, 2 presentations were done by health stakeholders. Though this activity is launched only in Douala and Yaoundé, it will be extended to rural areas too.
We will not limit it to our action only in Yaoundé and Douala. We have already put mechanism where people have to collect information for cancer and send them to Yaoundé for analysis. And note that cancer now is disease where when a professional have seen a cancer case, he have to report it. He cannot hide it, he have to make a report.
A group of persons have been trained in the adoption of a strategic plan of prevention.
Just begin to have a register cancer for Yaoundé and Douala, which is just piloting the process. But we have planned to cover all the country in the few years.
Cancer should never be underestimated because it kills more than tuberculosis, HIV, and malaria. This cancer registry will be more beneficial to patients.
This will push us to give to hierarchy information and data to take decision. And that decision will be for patients to have good treatment, to have good coverage. So I think this registry is working for them.
Cases of cancer should be taken care of even in settings where there are no registers. Vaccination and diagnosis center for cancers will be created in different areas.
In this edition of the news, we talk about the glorious return of the force of the national Sambo team, which landed this afternoon at the Douala International Airport. While coming, they came alongside with a bag of 12 medals, 8 in gold and 2 in silver, 2 in bronze at the 50th edition of the African Senior Ladies and Men Championship organized in Egypt. The delegation is currently on its way to Yaoundé. Team and individual competitions are set to take place with Cameroon and Morocco among the nations considered main favorite. The details of the Sambo team's arrival in the nation's capital city will be yours in our subsequent edition of the news. And that cover shot takes us to the end of this edition of the 6 p.m. news, Crise on Camday's television. But before we go, we remind you of our top stories. Militants of the Union de Population du Cameroun, UPC, have since this afternoon been discussing ways to improve the party in the Nyong and Kele division in the central region. The search for greener pasture has become too rampant among Cameroonian youth. Some even indulge in illegal immigration. The rate of cancer among youth keeps increasing daily. To fight this deadly disease, activities marking the launching of the cancer registry took place this Wednesday in Yaoundé. And it is here that the curtain draws for this edition of the news in the Queen's language. Meet Jean-Jacques Zé at 8 p.m. for the news in the French language. I'll be with you tomorrow at 6 p.m. for another edition of the news, but do not go away. Stay tuned to more interesting programs on Camday's television. Good evening and goodbye for now.